You know that person, the one whose name appears on your phone, and your mood changes before you've even opened the message. The one who can turn a peaceful morning into a stressful day with just a few words. Maybe it's a coworker who constantly criticizes you, a family member who never misses a chance to make you feel guilty, a friend who somehow turns every conversation into a competition, or someone who always leaves you questioning yourself instead of questioning them. They thrive on drama. They twist your words. They cross your boundaries, then make you feel guilty for having them. Most people will tell you the solution is simple. Just cut them out of your life. But life isn't always that simple. What if they're your boss? A parent? Someone you work with every day? Someone you simply can't avoid? So the real question isn't, how do I get rid of toxic people? It's, how do I stop them from controlling my peace? Because that's exactly what they steal. Not your time, not your money, your peace of mind. And once someone controls your emotions, they no longer need to control anything else. Here's the strange part. Most toxic people don't actually have power over you. They have power over your expectations. You keep hoping that this time they'll understand, that this time they'll apologize, that this time they'll finally become the person you've always wanted them to be. But every disappointment begins with an expectation that reality never promised. One of the oldest lessons in philosophy teaches a surprisingly modern truth. You cannot control another person's character. You cannot force honesty. You cannot demand maturity. And you certainly cannot make someone care if they have already chosen not to. The only thing exhausting you is trying. Imagine standing in the rain, angry because you're getting wet. You can complain. You can shout at the clouds. Or you can simply open an umbrella. The rain isn't your enemy. Refusing to accept that it's raining is. Toxic people are much the same. Accepting who they are doesn't mean approving of their behavior. It means refusing to waste your energy wishing they were someone else. Because acceptance isn't surrender. It's clarity. And clarity is where peace begins. But here's where most people get trapped. They believe every insult deserves a response. Every accusation deserves a defense. Every rude comment deserves a comeback. It feels natural. After all, if someone attacks your character, shouldn't you fight back? Maybe, but ask yourself something. Have you ever argued with someone who wasn't actually looking for the truth? Someone who had already decided you were wrong before you even opened your mouth? No matter how logical your explanation was, they weren't listening. They were waiting for you to become emotional, waiting for your voice to rise, waiting for you to lose control. Because the moment you react, the conversation stops being about facts. It becomes about your reaction. And suddenly, you're defending your anger instead of discussing the real issue. That's exactly where they want you. Not because they won the argument, but because they won your attention. Think about it. How many hours have you replayed a conversation in your mind, imagining better responses, thinking about what you should have said, feeling angry all over again? Meanwhile, the other person may have already forgotten about it, yet they're still living rent-free inside your mind. Who is really paying the price? Modern psychology has a name for one of the most effective ways to deal with people like this. It's called the gray rock method. The idea is surprisingly simple. Become emotionally uninteresting. Not rude, not cold, just steady. Short answers. Calm voice. No emotional performance. No dramatic reactions. No fuel for the fire. Because toxic people are often searching for something much more valuable than winning an argument. They're searching for a reaction. Your frustration, your guilt, your anger, your tears. Every emotional response tells them, I still have access to your mind. Now imagine what happens when that access quietly disappears. Not because you became heartless, but because you stopped handing them the keys. But staying calm doesn't mean becoming weak. And that's where many people get confused. Silence isn't fear. Sometimes it's discipline. Walking away isn't losing. Sometimes it's wisdom. Not every battle deserves your attention. Not every opinion deserves your defense. Not every person deserves unlimited access to your energy. The strongest people aren't the loudest. They're the ones who know exactly where their peace is worth protecting. And that leads to an uncomfortable question. What if the toxic person isn't the biggest problem? What if your need for their approval is? Because once you stop needing someone to understand you, they lose one of their greatest weapons. And that's where everything begins to change. What if someone insulted you and it simply didn't land? Not because you ignored it, not because you pretended it didn't hurt, but because you understood something they didn't. Words only have the power you give them. Think about it. If a stranger walked past you and said, "You're a terrible pilot," would you be offended? Probably not. Why? Because you know it isn't true. You don't spend the rest of your day trying to prove you're not a pilot. You simply move on. So why do certain insults stay with us for days, while others disappear in seconds? Because somewhere inside us, there's uncertainty. Toxic people are surprisingly good at finding those uncertain places. They don't create your insecurities. They simply press the buttons that already exist. Which means every painful interaction hides an opportunity. Not to study them, but to study yourself. Ask yourself, why did those words affect me so deeply? Sometimes the answer has nothing to do with the other person. Maybe you've been seeking validation. Maybe you've been afraid of disappointing people. Maybe you've spent so much of your life trying to be liked that criticism feels like rejection. But here's the truth. If your peace depends on everyone's approval, you'll spend your life chasing something you'll never catch. There will always be someone who misunderstands you, someone who dislikes you, someone who judges you without knowing your story. That's life. And trying to change every opinion is like trying to stop the wind with your hands. There's another habit that quietly keeps toxic people in control. Replaying conversations. You know the feeling. You're lying in bed, and suddenly you're arguing with them all over again. You think of the perfect comeback, the perfect explanation, the perfect way to prove they were wrong. Except, they aren't even there anymore. Your body reacts as if the conflict is happening again. Your heart beats faster. Your muscles tense. Your mind relives the same moment over and over and over. The conversation ended hours ago, but inside your mind, it never stopped. One ancient practice encourages a simple question whenever this happens. Is this within my control? Can you change what they already said? No. Can you erase what happened? No. Can you control what you choose to think about next? Absolutely. That single decision can save you hours of unnecessary suffering. Every minute spent arguing with someone inside your imagination is a minute stolen from your own life. Now let's talk about something many people confuse with strength. Endurance. We've been taught that being a good person means tolerating everything. Being patient, being understanding, giving people another chance, and another, and another. But patience without boundaries becomes permission. When someone repeatedly disrespects you and nothing changes, your silence doesn't always communicate kindness. Sometimes it communicates acceptance. Healthy boundaries aren't walls built to keep everyone out. They're doors that let the right people in. You don't need to explain every boundary. You don't need everyone to agree with it. And you certainly don't need to feel guilty for protecting your mental health. Sometimes the most respectful sentence you'll ever say is simply, no. No long explanation. No apology. Just, no. The people who truly respect you will respect your boundaries. The ones who become angry because you finally have boundaries were often benefiting from the fact that you didn't. Here's something else worth remembering. Many toxic people are fighting battles you'll never see. That doesn't excuse manipulation. It doesn't justify abuse. But it explains something important. Hurt people often hurt people. People who constantly criticize others are often deeply critical of themselves. People obsessed with controlling everyone usually feel out of control inside. Understanding this changes your perspective. You stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking, "What pain might they be carrying?" Notice the difference. Compassion doesn't require you to stay. Understanding doesn't require you to tolerate mistreatment. You can wish someone healing while choosing distance. Those two things can exist together. There's a quote that has survived for centuries because it captures this perfectly. The best revenge is not to become like your enemy. Think about that. Every time you choose bitterness, they've changed you. Every time you become cruel because they were cruel, they've influenced your character. But every time you remain calm, every time you choose integrity over revenge, every time you refuse to let someone else's chaos become your own, you win a battle no one else can see. Not against them, against yourself. And that's the only battle that truly matters. One day, the toxic people in your life may not change. They may still gossip, still manipulate, still complain, still try to provoke you, but something remarkable will be different. You. Their words won't echo in your mind all day. Their opinions won't decide your worth. Their behavior won't dictate your mood, because you'll finally understand a truth that has guided wise people for centuries. You cannot control the storm, but you can become an excellent captain. Your peace was never hidden inside another person's approval. It was waiting inside your own choices. So the next time someone tries to pull you into drama, pause, take a breath, ask yourself one simple question. Is giving this person my peace really worth it? Most of the time, the answer will be obvious. Protect your mind. Guard your energy. Choose your battles carefully. Because real strength isn't found in winning every argument. It's found in reaching the point where not every argument deserves your attention. And that's when toxic people lose the one thing they wanted from you all along: control.